Next. 8.5. Excellent, Briggs.
How'd I do, Coach?
I don't know, son. I don't have a sundial. Come on.
I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know I'm doing it really, really well.
Good evening. Welcome to the Steelers Sanctuary Podcast. I'm Leanne Lohman, joined tonight by Zach Franciscus and David Korab. Bob Quinn will be joining us shortly, and Dave is off this night taking care of a few other things. So, guys, how are you doing?
I'm hanging in there.
Surprised that the combine is already here. I did not.
Right?
I don't know why I thought it was like a month away or something.
Yeah,
no, it's like a couple days.
It feels like February happened like in the blink of an eye. Like it's gone by so quickly. It's hard to believe it's nearing the end of the month. So what we're going to do tonight, for those of you that are watching, is we are going to talk about the upcoming combine, talk about some of the offensive players that we really like, what we're hoping to see, what we're kind of looking for this week when the combine starts. And then on Thursday night's show, we'll break down the defense a little bit. But before we start talking about that, I want to talk a little bit about the Matthew Stafford rumors that are kind of swirling. I thought that those were kind of like a fart in the wind last week, like nobody was taking that real seriously. But then to hear it come back around today where, they've actually granted him permission to talk to other teams, you have to wonder, does he feel like maybe they don't want him as much and he'd actually be willing? Would the Steelers really be able to be in the market for him? What would the Rams even want for him? So what were you guys thinking about that? Hey, Bob.
Hello. So we're talking about the Matt Stafford stuff.
Yeah, just started talking about Stafford.
Just got into it, brother.
Yeah, everybody knows that I believe anything older is the wrong move. But if we had to have a worst case scenario where we did go older, Matthew Stafford to me is not a bad option. I think I feel about Matthew Stafford what Bob and Dave feel about Aaron Rodgers. I genuinely like him as a person. I like him as a quarterback. Sure. And I think for the 4 games that he stays healthy, he'll be great. But that's the problem.
What would be reasonable? Like, what would be the outside of limit, what you give for him where it wouldn't make your head explode? What do you think is reasonable?
I would probably, I understand it's Matt Stafford, so you're probably not going to get him for less than a second. It's the fact that people are saying he's $50 million owed is what I'm worried about when people say that's what he's going to want. Both of those are too much. You get $50 million or a second round. You don't get both.
Right.
Well, from a Rams standpoint, you got to figure, they're going to ask for a first.
Sure.
There's no doubt they'll ask for a first. But that's the beginning, the big ask. It just depends on, where you go. Would I give up a first for him? Probably not, because he's 37. You almost are going to have to get him to restructure his contract and do like a 2 for $90 I saw floated today. Look, if you want a quarterback of that caliber, he's top 3 in the NFC. He'd probably be top 6, 7 in the AFC. You want a quarterback of that caliber and you get him for $45 million? Guess what? You're paying him $15 million less than Dak Prescott. That's actually a bargain. So you just got to be willing to give up all the cap space. Would I do it? I think Aaron Rodgers would be a lot less, so I'd be more inclined for that. But, yeah, maybe you drop that down to a second and a fourth and maybe.
Yeah. Vaughn killing it early tonight.
Yeah, Vaughn, right off the rip.
The one thing I wonder is that, do the Rams kind of feel like, look, he's coming with this huge cap hit? Do you know what I mean? No matter how they slice it, do they feel like maybe they just get rid of him? Maybe a second round pick is good enough and, something else, and you're just getting some compensation from him so you can kind of move on. Are they at that point? Like, is there really a rift with him? And there are some rumors about him and the coach, is there some rift there, or is this, something else? I don't know. I think it's a lot. I'd be giving up a second round pick for him makes me really nervous if we could sign Justin Fields. Do you know what I mean? But I guess if Fields is off the table, then is he our next best option?
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable with this.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Honestly, I watched the last couple games of the Rams, and he didn't look that great. I think he did good in the playoff game, their first playoff game. But a couple other games, he looked bad. He was way off. I don't know if he was injured or so. I can't remember. But I didn't like what I saw. And McVay is so smart. Like, maybe they know he's at the end. Like they know there's nothing left in the tank or something. I don't know. It would definitely have to depend on what the asking price is, involving how much we got to pay him too. I mean, can you imagine if you give up? Because I've seen a couple projections of giving up like 2 first-round picks for this guy and stuff, and I'm like, bro, if you give up 2 first-round picks and pay this guy $45 million, and guess what? Father Time is here. We are cooked. Like badly.
We're not a quarterback away from a Super Bowl. Do you know what I mean? So to me, it doesn't
Right.
make sense. If you bring in a guy like Stafford, you got this like little window of what, 2 years, 3 years. You know, maybe you're lucky and it's 5 years, but who knows? We're just not that close.
To me, I don't know. I just it's just too much of a risk for me. I don't know. Like I don't get me wrong. Stafford he's had a great career. My gosh, to give up that for a guy that might be done. I don't know, man. McVay's so smart, and he makes really good moves.
That's a really good point.
He does. He just makes really good moves, and you're just like, fuck, this guy's ready to dump him off. And you're like, I don't think I want the Steelers to be the ones that give up all this for that guy. I just don't think it's a good idea.
Well, one thing to remember about this is not a comment on Matt Stafford's talent. There is a real rift between the organization. Matt Stafford's wife has a podcast, and she ripped the organization for Cooper Kupp. So there is some talk. And by the way, McVay is an offensive genius. I absolutely agree with that. But he also gave up on Jared Goff. Goff looks pretty good in Detroit. So maybe not the greatest judge of, hey, somebody's done. Hey, look, he's 37 years old. He's the same age as Russell Wilson. He's miles ahead of Russell Wilson as a quarterback. Honestly, he's ahead of Justin Fields. So if it becomes hey, we bring him in because, look, it's not to win the Super Bowl. Let's be clear. Matt Stafford is not going to deliver a Super Bowl to Pittsburgh, barring something unforeseen. But he may deliver a playoff win. And at this point, you got to figure out Rooney and Mike Tomlin want the fan base to shut the fuck up.
My only rebuttal, Bob, to that about him giving up on Goff is he won a Super Bowl with Stafford after trading Goff for him. So that's my only rebuttal to that. So it still feels like he made the right move. I mean, Goff didn't even look that good last couple of years after he got traded. But I think he was injured a lot too, if I remember correctly. I think it's the last 2 seasons that Goff's actually looked pretty good. Yeah, you have to check, but I'm pretty sure that he struggled a little bit at first. He wasn't right that last season with the Rams either. So when they traded for Stafford, then they win a Super Bowl. There's
Off tonight because he's out attending a meeting of the Knights Templar. Like, what is with that logo in his?
No idea.
We're gonna each take a goblet. It's gonna be great.
The Knights Templar.
I mean, his first year in Detroit. Remember how bad? Remember how bad Detroit was? Goff's first year in Detroit. So, he only played 14 games.
That's a good point. Didn't exactly have a supporting cast, too.
Yeah, but the last 3 years, over 4,000 yards, almost 4,500 yards. I mean, it's been lights out and progressively better each year.
No, he's been good. Like I said, last couple of years, he's been really good. I agree.
The organization is really pissy with him over some stuff his wife said on a podcast. I can't imagine much that's more childish than that. I mean, seriously, like people's families speak up all the time. Like, I think you gotta have thicker skin.
These were not. These were not just lighthearted, hey, I want to rip.
Oh, I know. I heard the comments.
Yeah. She was ripping Cooper Kupp. She was saying Matt was poorly treated. There's a line.
It's her opinion. It's not him saying it. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. It just feels to me like, I would not be happy if somebody held against me what somebody in my family said. It happens all the time. You hear players, dads on Twitter and moms on Twitter. And
you're saying they could easily ignore it, basically.
You just ignore that. You got to ignore that. People talk all the time.
Yeah, it's a very different culture than Pittsburgh too, because isn't it the Rams who literally bought a house just for the draft?
Yes.
Like there's a draft. It's different with the Rams. It's kind of like what I imagine being in New York or being in Dallas is like listen, you're playing football, but there's a lot other stuff that's going on that has nothing to do with football. So I can see why McVay might get a little pissy about that. I can understand, even if absolutely like worthwhile getting mad about comments. other franchises would have probably shrugged it off.
It's like the
Steelers
least
have.
important
Think about the
team
Cam
in all
Hayward
of-
shit.
And the
Yeah.
Rams, let's face it, they're looking at it. Hey, he's 37 years old, but we got the best part of it this over with. Hey, his wife mouthed off on a podcast. We're going to get rid of him anyway. Might as well start now.
Hey, they got the ring with him.
The
So
37, I agree with. Do you know what I mean? Is it time to move on? You tried to get him last year. You got close, you didn't get there. Is that the component that you feel like needs to be upgraded? And, is getting rid of him the first step? I don't know who they think they have.
Well, the Rams are all about, they'll take a step back to take
Right, to
steps
build.
forward.
I understand. So, I mean, what is it they're thinking? I don't know. But I mean, obviously, they feel like unloading him is like that next step towards getting back to winning or making that Super Bowl. Then, I don't think anybody could tell them differently. So
Let's hope to
That's
God
why I
they're
don't
thinking
think-
Russell Wilson.
I know.
That's why I don't think.
I don't think that's it.
Well, I don't think we'll get him either, because I think what the Rams see right now is either we have a Matthew Stafford or we have a King's Hall that we got for Matthew Stafford. And we are not going to give up a King's Hall. There's going to be a firm thing that the second they go over, Khan's going to hang up the phone. And that's how I feel. But there is a team out there that is going to give them what they want. There are quarterback-hungry teams that are going to look at Matthew Stafford and then look at Shadur Sanders and then look at Matthew Stafford. You know what? I think that's more of a sure thing. I'm not going to do a thing at the combine.
Yeah. I did do an article today from Kabali on talking about, it kind of tongue in cheek, but also serious. Like, don't underestimate Omar Khan's ability to work out some kind of deal that works in our favor. Do you know what I mean? Where you're not giving this 2 first-round draft picks and paying him, $50 or $60 million a year. He said, we're not doing that. We're not going to be the Chicago Bears after this with egg on our faces. Khan will shut that down, or he'll come up with something that's actually beneficial for the team.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. Khan more than likely won't get fleeced.
Yeah.
There may be some internal pressure, though, to, hey, and bear in mind, if you get Matthew Stafford, one of the reasons I know Dave and I like the idea of Aaron Rodgers is not just Aaron Rodgers. It's we get Devontae Adams. You get Matthew Stafford, you get Cooper Kupp. I don't know that I love him as much as Devontae Adams, but you are solving a wide receiver problem at the same time.
I love Stafford.
Leanne, can we go?
Rodgers, though.
Can we go back to that relic comment?
Yeah,
Really
I was
quick?
wondering
Because that is perfect. I think this right here represents what we want the Steelers to do. The Rams looked at Aaron Donald. They said, we don't have a lot of time with you. We need to win something with you. Let's spend everything we have. It's going to hurt us for a little bit. That's what we are not willing to, at least what I don't see us willing to do with TJ Watt. There's no awareness of that. And that frustrates me. The Rams did exactly what they needed to get everything they could out of Aaron Donald. They got him a Super Bowl, did all that. I feel bad that I don't think we're going to do that for TJ.
they got rid of tons
that's
of
what
draft
that reminded
picks.
me.
They had hardly any draft picks for a couple seasons,
Yep.
maybe more than
Yeah.
a couple
Like
seasons.
4 years.
They
didn't
more
have
Yeah.
a first.
future
Eh,
for that
but
Super
that
Bowl.
was what they
absolutely
did, and they did it their
Yep.
way, and they won.
That's a philosophy, though, like in your franchise,
is.
that you have that
Mhm.
philosophy, and some do and some don't. Big
Yep.
Poppy agrees. He said we kept Ben 3 years too long. And I agree with Sombra on this. He said we used to draft people, not pick up stragglers. And, to Relic's point about being fine with Van Jefferson, I do think to some degree it feels like that more. Do you know what I mean? I agree. I think we do still draft people and try to develop them. But not all of our draft picks have been hits. Do you know what I mean? And I think that that's hurt us as well.
That's really a nice way to put it, Leanne.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily all bust, because I think there's a variety of reasons, and I think the jury is out too soon on him. Like, I think Kenny Pickett I wouldn't call him a reach, because you should have never been dumb enough to go for him at that point in the draft anyways. You know what I mean? If you picked him later in the draft a little bit, he would have where he was supposed to be picked. You know what I mean? It would have been fine, but you're reaching for a guy. That's not his fault. That's not a bust on his talent. He performed exactly like you should have expected him to perform.
And
Yeah,
it's
well,
also
I mean, but there's no question. Bottom line is, for the last decade, and we've been through the list, 9 out of 46 are NFL caliber players. That's horrible, and that's why we're in free agency. It's because our drafts were so bad for a decade. It's not permanent. We can get out of it, but we have got to hit on 3 or 4 draft classes in a row to stop having to go to the free agent well every year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
not
I mean-
only that, I think that speaks directly to our inability to progress people. So we need to draft people that are so talented that our coaching staff can't fuck it up. And let's be honest, 9 incredibly talented people that overcame bad coaching isn't terrible. It's not great, but
I don't know. I don't know that we'll say incredibly talented, but okay.
Yeah.
That's why last year I said they're at least 2 more drafts away, because I know they're going to do it through the draft mostly, so they got to hit on these picks. Period.
Yeah. And it's that kind of that lack of awareness that makes me worried about if we do get Matthew Stafford. Because Bob, I absolutely agree. Matthew Stafford is more talented than Justin Fields, but we don't have the blocking to sustain Matthew Stafford, and that's why it's he's going to break. I don't want him to break.
Well, that Stafford and Rodgers, and this is one of the things when I've been doing a lot of work preparing for the combine. This is one of the things I like about Shedeur Sanders too. They are anticipatory throwers. They go to the line, they see what's going on. There's 2 ways you can play behind a bad offensive line. You can run for your life, or you can get rid of the ball. And Stafford and Rodgers are going to get rid of the ball. I don't think they'll take a lot of hits. They're veterans. And if Russell Wilson will stand there and get crushed because he holds the ball forever. Those are 2 guys who get the ball out just about as fast as anybody in the league.
Relic says it won't happen. Mike Tomlin, for whatever reason, won't let rookies stay on the field long enough till week 17. He continues to switch out players, and he loves his vets. He does love his vets.
Basically what you're saying there is that it doesn't matter who we draft, that we're just going to play the free agents. And that's kind of counterintuitive to what the Steelers have been.
Porter. I don't think that's true.
Who didn't get on
he was clearly Joey didn't get on for a while.
Rookie on the field right away. He almost never puts a rookie on the field right away. Like, I don't think that's.
I think only Foatanu was going to start apparently right.
But only because Jones
really
wasn't
about
performing right.
And to me isn't the I don't want to sound like the old man on the porch, but the modern Steeler culture is a little different. I remember Kendrell Bell was the exception. Like, he's starting, he's a rookie. We don't start rookies in Pittsburgh. And that name sticks out to me because he had his 1.5 good years. But so it's a little different when people are like, I can't believe we're starting 2 or 3 rookies. I'm like, I can't believe it used to be we just didn't start him for a decade. So it's different to me.
So difficult that they said that the rookies couldn't learn it. You know what I mean? That fast. So he wasn't, willing to start them as quickly.
Yeah, those days are long gone as far as the defense
great
goes.
Point.
Yeah,
that's a great. Yeah. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Yeah. I like that.
Some of the guys that played for him, Harrison, a couple other guys have talked about it in interviews, like how unusual it was for somebody like Bell to start. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit and talk some about the combine, the upcoming combine. And we're going to focus tonight, like I said earlier, primarily on the offensive side of the ball. We'll talk defense on Thursday. And kind of let me know, guys. I'm curious to hear what you're looking for, what you're hoping to see. What are you hoping to see that validates what you're already thinking? Who are you hoping is going to surprise you? What could change your mind? What do you think the Steelers are looking to see?
Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Bob.
All right, I'm not gonna. I got a lot of notes on this, but let's talk wide receiver first, and we can kind of swap it around.
That's a good idea.
All right, so a lot of mock drafts have had Matthew Golden to the Steelers in the first round. I'm going to be interested to see how he runs. He's a smooth player, but the one thing in the combine when it comes to receivers that you're going to look at is the 40 time and how good are their hands when they do that. So a guy like Matthew Golden, if he comes in and runs, a low 4.4, 4.3, he's most certainly a first round pick, and you start to give him some consideration. But then you turn around, a guy like Luther Burden, who may fall short in the interview process because if you watch him, he's got all the talent in the world, but he takes plays off and he doesn't run his routes crisply all the time. Sound like somebody we know? So, you start to wonder, is he going to be a guy who supreme talent, but maybe, is the ghost of George Pickens going to hurt him as far as the Steelers look? And I'm really interested to see a guy named Jaden Higgins at Iowa State. If you watch my mock drafts on Tuesday, you know how much I love this kid. huge target, not the fastest guy. If he runs low 4.4s, he's going to be a first-round draft pick. Steelers won't get a chance to get him. I don't think we reach for him in the first, but in the second, I love Jaden Higgins. Guy's got ridiculous hands, probably the best hands in the draft, and he catches balls over the middle, which is what we desperately need.
Yeah, as far as wide receivers goes, literally all of them. As I'd like to get a look at tons, but I mean, guys that are projected to be there, in the bottom half or second round, Igbuka, Matthew Golden, and Isaiah Bond, and then a couple of the guys that Bob just mentioned too. There's that other one, Tataro McMillan. Is there a chance he could fall at all, you think?
I think he's the unquestioned number one.
Okay.
I mean, you know what, though? Anything's possible at the combine. He goes out and runs a 4.6. He ain't the best wide receiver.
Yeah.
Also, this is a weird draft. I think a lot of things are going to be possible in this weird draft. You know what I mean? I think it's a little bit of a different draft than we've seen in recent years without those knock it out of the park, group of 10 or 12 elite players. Plus, you've got teams that definitely need quarterbacks, and they're going to take those guys. So I think that works to our benefit a little bit.
Yeah, I hope that the draft just falls our way where we've got a couple different players we can go along with. Last year was amazing. We had any cornerback we wanted. Of course, we took another tackle, but in general, the draft, the way it fell very nice for us. We could have had multiple different options to go with, but didn't. But yeah, so that's what I'm hoping happens.
And David, I think it was me and you were texting the other night, and I said that the Steelers actually have to work harder to get a bad draft pick in the first round.
Yeah.
Than I genuinely feel like there's so many runs that could happen. That's multiple people. It's not even just Tyler Warren. That could be a top wide receiver. It could be, but I'm really probably more than any other position as far as the offense goes. I'm going to be watching the wide receivers at the combine. Because the Post Gazette had they ranked the strength of the different position classes, and they have the wide receivers as good, average. And I genuinely feel some of those guys could make a big leap up, and if a bunch of wide receivers all prove that this isn't as average a class as we thought, that would be fun for me, because that would mean that there would be wide receivers, running backs, and defensive linemen for everybody. And we're going to need all three. So I'm genuinely excited for that.
Yeah, I totally. And the one thing about this wide receivers class, this is a wide receiver 2 class. This is not Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas and those guys. These are solid NFL receivers. Now, and I think there's a lot of not great ones, but good ones in the second, third, and fourth round. Kid I love, who's probably going to be a day 3 pick, maybe a late day 2, Torrey Horton out of Colorado State. That's a kid I really like, who I think we can get later in the draft.
So as far as other positions, if we want to switch, QB, I think I've let Dave talk me into Jackson Dart. I'm interested in seeing what he's got.
If we choose Jackson Dart, I'm sending my kid to live with you because I don't want to listen to him the rest of the year.
Well, it depends where we get him. Don't you think?
That's where I'm at. Where I'm at.
Although this is interesting. I was all in on taking a quarterback in a later round. They're talking about maybe Milrow, maybe Dart. Somebody falls to us in a later round. And then I was listening to the radio today, and they were talking about it. And it kind of changed my opinion. He's like, look, we're not doing the Kenny Pickett reach at 21 for somebody again. Please God, right?
Yeah, I appreciate
then
that.
You're taking somebody in this later round, and you're taking a crapshoot. He's like, why are you going to waste that pick? And then he's like, you're better off getting an exceptional special teams player, an exceptional player at some other position, and continuing to build. And then you're coming back next year and really going all in on your quarterback for the draft. But what is the point of taking another mid-level guy that you would have to invest the time in developing when your plan seems to be to come back in 2026 and get a future quarterback? So, you're coming to get a backup, I guess.
Well, I saw a mock the other day, and they talked about it on the radio on Friday, where Sanders had fallen all the way to the Steelers, and they passed him, and then he got picked the next pick. Look, I know some people, they think way too much of this Deion baggage. He's a pocket passer. He's an anticipatory thrower. Doesn't have the strongest arm, and he scrambles to throw. He is not a running quarterback. So if we had a chance to get him, I wouldn't trade up. But if he somehow fell, that's the only guy I would see in the first round. Now, I watched a very interesting spot with Jordan Palmer on the Rich Eisen show. And a guy I like and have picked in most of my mocks is Kyle McCord. And Jordan Palmer said he is the best tools quarterback in the draft. And he's a guy who we could probably get on day 3. So he's got a huge arm. They said he checks all the boxes. So do I think he's going to be the next Tom Brady? No. But if we can get him in the 4th or 5th round and he's a solid, he thinks he's going to start in the league for a long time. And
Really?
bear in mind, Jordan Palmer is Carson Palmer's brother. He said he reminds him a lot of his brother.
Wow. On day 3, though, you get him on day 3. I mean,
oh yeah,
it won't upset me if they do take one, which I think they're going to take one day 3, unless one of these other guys falls to them. I brought up the whole Shedeur Sanders thing, guys, like 4 months ago. Remember, I said, what if he falls? Because you never know. But another guy.
Would you guys take him, Zach? Bob, would you take Shedeur Sanders?
Well,
I know Bob would, but Zach, would you if he fell us?
That's the thing. I'm genuinely torn on this. I have watched every single Colorado Buffaloes game that Shedeur Sanders have played, and the whole thing has fascinated me from just historical content. I've loved it. But my concern is that I understand that Deion wants control and have more control in this process. It was, to me, the biggest mistake for him to not be throwing as much as possible. For me, I'm like, you were behind it. We didn't get to see a lot of what you could do in a pocket because most of the time you didn't have a pocket. You're running for your life and you were making up plays as you went. I want to see what you look like when you're just standing there. And I don't think this is so. That's my concern. But the Steelers will get to see hopefully a lot more film, a lot more of that, so they'll be happy. But from my perspective, I don't feel I'm going to know if I'm okay with Shedeur Sanders, even if we pick him, until he actually gets out and plays football for us, because of him not going and doing those drills.
Yeah, I don't care about the Deion Sanders stuff. Like for me, do you know what I mean? I don't care about that. I don't have anything against Deion. Do you know what I mean? I don't care about any of that. But I do worry that he'd be a reach at, you know what I mean, a little bit at 21. And
not at 21. Yeah, definitely not at 21.
He's a first round guy. I don't want to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, Sanders.
It makes me nervous too, Liam. I'm the same
I'd rather
way.
come back next year and get somebody. Do you know what I mean? I just don't know that he's that guy.
Sanders, I mean, more than likely will not make it out of the top 5.
Oh, I agree. I think he's going to go. I just don't know that. I think he's
which is why it wouldn't be a reach if he fell to 21. That's an Aaron Rodgers fall in my lap kind of deal.
If somebody falls past where they might get taken doesn't make them not a reach. Do you know what I mean? Like if he was in next year's draft or last year's draft, he would not be one of the top 3 quarterbacks.
No, but he would have still gone in the first round.
Because people are desperate for quarterbacks and you're mortgaging your future and rolling the dice on these guys, and they just don't pan out. Because could have said the same thing about a lot of guys. They get taken way too soon and they're just not. I just don't think he's there.
Is one of the knocks on Shedeur Sanders is basically the competition he's faced too?
No.
Has to be.
No. Okay. I couldn't remember.
Early in his career, I think so. But Buffalo, because of the hype that came with Deion, they did play some heavy hitters. So they're not always up to par with them, but they did play some heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Can you guys highlight Ted Jones's comment? Because
I was going to bring that up and ask you guys what you think. What do you think of this?
I tell you what, Zach, it was actually you, and you showed me that thing where you traded down and all the different picks you got. I was like, wow, it's interesting to me. It really is.
Now, I will say I use mock draft database more than I use. I think it's PFF or PFN or whatever a lot of other people use, and mock draft tends to like to put more trades in than other ones. But I got a great haul for trading back. And more often than not, if there is not someone who the second I look at that pick, I'm like, oh, great, we're taking him, I normally trade back in my mocks. I don't have a problem with that at all.
Yeah, I don't either if we're getting something out of it. I think it's,
Well, you also have to have the board has to fall right so that somebody wants to come up and get what you want. I mean, people have, first of all all these guys, national guys, are doing mocks and putting the Steelers at quarterback and running back. They're doing us a huge favor, because if somebody thinks that we're going to go there, I don't think it's going to be wide receiver. I think it's going to be a defensive player, probably a defensive tackle. But if it is wide receiver, and let's say Burden falls, there's a great chance we're going to be able to trade back. And I would feel just as good. Burden is either going to – he's George Pickens without the George Pickens of it. But he's either going to be phenomenally good or he's going to be really bad.
I will say every single draft, this is one of my worst habits that I have to break when it comes to evaluation. My brain just decides on a position that the Steelers should not, for any reason, be looking at in the first round, in my opinion, and it goes in a blind spot. I don't know why. Quarterback this year. Every time I go to study it, my brain just shrugs it off. It's like, do that? What? The last time I did that, though, we drafted Kenny fucking Pickett. So I feel like it's my job now to do everything I can to shift that. Because that frustrates me. I will be. It is in my blind spot. So I'll know about a lot of other prospects, but throughout this whole process, if you talk about quarterbacks, I'm probably going to throw it to somebody else because I'm like, I don't know. I haven't looked.
So what do you guys think about running back? I think it was Daniel Jeremiah drafted again Ashton Jeanty to us, and I saw today that he won't be running drills at the combine. So what do you guys think about that? Is that like a no-brainer for you if he's available, you take him, or are you still scarred for life on running backs in the first round?
Not only that, this is you don't get this kind of position class a lot. Running backs. I've seen anywhere from 25 to 30 like real. They did say superstar. I'm not saying like superstar. I'm saying NFL running backs, and that you do not get that a lot. So there's if Jeanty is there, what you do, you trade back. You find the hungriest team and you get what someone would have traded to get. That is such a beautiful spot, because then you trade back, get a bunch of stuff, and then you find someone who isn't Jeanty but is still a great NFL running back. And look, it's a beard.
Oh, look!
And like
slander Colbert, and he will come.
Right.
I'm listening to you guys.
You're like Bloody Mary.
I started twitching a little bit.
Stuff about Colbert and come pop up.
But as far as running backs, R.J. Harvey is a name from UC. Is it UCF? Yeah, from UCF. That a lot of people. I see his name popping up a lot when you talk about using a late pick to get a running back that would still work out. I see his name pop up a lot. So I don't know a lot about him yet, but I'm definitely I'm excited about whatever running back we get outside of the first round, or whatever running back we use as leverage to get us a big haul.
Definitely interested in watching them at the combine. Like I'm definitely. I'm sorry, Leanne. I didn't mean to cut you off. Good.
Go ahead. I
was just saying, like, running back's definitely something I'm going to want to watch. With there's so many running backs you can take in any of these rounds, basically. Yeah. As far as like Jeanty not wanting to participate, sometimes that's the smart move. If you're already
that's a real bummer, though.
It's a bummer for us. But like, if you're already the projected guy for running back to be the highest projected one to go, why do anything to hurt that stock? Yeah. So I just think that's a smart move for him because of him being projected as the number one without anything else. Because look at his resume, what he did this past year. Yeah. So I'm not mad about it. As a fan, I'd like to watch, but besides that, no, it's a smart move.
And really quick before Relic, the only reason that I do agree with you, generational talent, all of that, but there has to be some reality. You're still putting him in our system. And you can't say Steelers don't know how to progress people, all this, but Ashton Jeanty. He would have to work so hard to not be the next Najee, which he would be called by everybody and their mother. There's so much negativity. He would have. It's no reason to do that. Plus, 25 to 30 running backs. Use him for leverage. I understand you want Jeanty, but so many other things you could do with that. I love the trade back thing.
He's the best offensive player in the draft. The best offensive weapon in the draft.
Whoa.
He is. He is.
He's still
Okay.
us, though. It's
Who's better than him?
us.
Non-quarterback.
We
Non-quarterback.
don't
Who's
even know
better?
how to use Najee and Jalen Warren. How are we going to know how to use Ashton Genty?
Zach, we have to believe that our offensive line
Yeah.
is going to be better this year. Like, we're getting Faltanu back. You have to hope that Broderick Jones takes this step forward that he's supposed to take. You know, obviously, whatever happens with Daniels, whether he returns to us or we find somebody solid to replace him, we have to feel like we're going to shore up those missing pieces. Like, our offensive line was bad last year, but when I look back and remind myself of like the injuries and who we were missing, like critical people on that line, I think in many ways they outperformed what I expected them to do when people went out with injury. It's not to say that they were good.
But look, Genty, he's Boise State, watch it. Go back, watch his tape, then go watch Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs tape in college.
They're on the same level.
They're
They
not.
are. They are.
They're not. They're not.
And he's faster. He's faster than both of them, too.
I'm not even sold that Genty's the best running back in this class. I think he's top 5, but I also think there's 5 really, really, really good running backs in this class. I'm willing to bet, because I think Hampton's going to run. But if Hampton and Sampson run as fast as we think they're going to run, you start to wonder, unless he comes and turns in a nice time at his pro day, is Omarion Hampton and Dylan Sampson going to go in front of him? Personally, I like Caleb Johnson. I don't think any of the top 5 you can go wrong with, which is exactly why I'd be totally okay waiting till the second round or even the third to get one of those guys.
With the Steelers pick in the second round, all 5 of those guys are going to be gone. So,
you think so? You think all 5 of those will be gone?
Well, not Sampson, but the top 4.
They're not
Hampton.
really. It's not
a running
not
back
everybody
run,
thinks
no?
like us, where they take running backs in the first round. Like most of these
There's
guys.
going to be a run early in the second round. There's going to be a run. Henderson's
so.
going to be gone. Hampton's going to be gone. Genty's going in top 15. So,
honestly, if we got Damian Martinez in the 4th round, I'd be totally okay with that.
see, but this is the thing. Do you want to be okay, or do you want to make a difference? Genty makes a difference. Hampton is Najee. Hampton is Warren. Hampton is 1,000 other backs. This team needs weapons, not just they're
Hampton,
okay.
I disagree with that. Hampton's got
no, I didn't mean Hampton. I meant the guy you brought up,
Damian Martinez.
Martinez. He's just a guy.
He's bigger,
He's just a
stronger,
guy.
faster than you think. If you go back and look at his tape at Oregon State versus Miami, he was really, really, really good at Oregon State. Miami didn't use him as much. They had more of a running back by committee. And let's face it, it doesn't matter who you draft. This is going to be a 60-40 at best split with Jalen Warren. So am I willing to give up the draft capital in the first and second round when I'm going to split it 60-40? There's different makers there. Look, if Caleb Johnson's sitting at 52, yeah, would I pick him? I'd probably pick any of the top 5 backs if they were sitting at 52. But, if I thought, if there isn't that run and I think I can get him in round 3, I might roll the dice and say, well, worst case, I get a Damian Martinez, I get a Trevor Etienne, I get somebody like that who is going to be a nice split with Jalen Warren. Doesn't matter how good they are. You're splitting with Jalen Warren when you come in there.
I don't know if you're splitting. I guess 60-40, 70-30, some kind of split, depending on who you take. To me, there's only 2 difference makers on offense in this draft. It's Tyler Warren and it's Ashton Genty. You can talk me into Hampton. Omarion Hampton's pretty good too. He might be the 3rd guy. None of the wide receivers really move the needle. I think I heard you say it. This is a wide receiver 2 draft, not a wide receiver 1 draft.
Right.
Well, there is one legit wide receiver.
I'm not even sold on McMillan. He's good, but
if he runs 4.4, he's going to go probably top 10.
Yeah, he's going to go top 10. I won't argue that, but I don't know if he's. It's a moot point. He's not going to make it to the Steelers, but
yeah,
Genty might, if we're lucky. God help us if Tyler Warren does and they pass on him. I think me and Zach would have a nervous breakdown, but
I would.
Those are the 2 guys. If you want to make a difference maker, if you want to get better on offense, those are the 2 guys you really want. And
I think maybe that's where my perspective is a little different. And honestly, this is what I do in Madden. It's what I do in all my things. I look and I'm like, I can have you. You're a difference maker. You're a home run hitter. Or I can have all these foundational players. And I will just who I am. I'm always the person going to go, I want all of them. instead of the one of, and I understand completely why people want that. I don't want to take anyone's joy from wanting Genty and wanting that home run hitter. I'm a little more blue collar in the approach. I want everything else to be right, and then you get the home run hitter. But I'm very risk averse with that particular way to build a team. So nothing
Yep.
against the other ways to do it. That's just how I
Yeah.
see it, which is why
Well,
Genty sets alarm bells in my head.
What do you guys think? It makes me nervous. That's giving up picks to go get Genty, and we can't
Again,
really afford to give
no.
up picks. I mean,
If you're looking for a difference maker, you want something.
yeah.
We could sit and settle at 21 for Ibuka from Ohio State, or the third best wide receiver in this draft, and we'll be 10-8 again.
Dave,
Or do
I
you
wish
wanna-
I could go back 2 years ago and
Dave,
talk to Dave Ribeiro and go,
you can't-
just so you know, in 2 years, you're going to be saying we should trade picks for a running
You
back in the
can't-
first round.
You can't compare Najee Harris to to Ashton Dempsey. It's two different players. He's going to run 4.3 at his pro day. That's what people are saying.
It's
At
dude,
200 plus pounds.
Yeah, he's so confident he's not going to run at the combine. So it's a little bit iffy. If you're that fast, then it's
You guys know it's a business decision. You're at your
no,
home.
I
your
said
home
for
thing
him it was smart
with your
because he
home,
is projected the top running back. But still, my gosh, the first round, if you pray to God it works out. If it doesn't, this is again another running back you took, and it's just like,
look,
dude, you could have had a productive running back in any of these rounds, basically.
If he chooses not to run, and Omarion Hampton looks like he is, and Hampton runs low 4.3s, and then let's say Genty waits till his pro day, which he's going to do, and then he runs high 4.3s. All of a sudden, some of that shine starts to come off because, hey, maybe he's not as fast as we think he is. Not to mention the fact he put the ball on the ground in the playoffs, in the college football playoffs. So you already got a ball security potential issue here with this kid.
He had 300 touches, Bob. I think it's 0.1% fumble rate at that point.
Well, but against top competition, he fumbled twice.
Yeah.
So
I don't think
Much
fumbling's a problem with him.
involved. I don't think it's a fumble issue.
And you don't have to talk me into Omarion Hampton either. I mean, I would trade down, like I said in the last podcast. I don't know if I'd take him at 21. I try to get more assets before I take him. Genty's, from everything I see and read, Genty's different. Genty is different.
Also, not to change positions here, but I'm going to also be watching Tyler Warren because it's going to be
100%.
awesome watching him
100%.
dominate.
Good transition. So let's talk about tight end. I mean, is that even a position you think the Steelers should see? I understand Tyler Warren. So if he's there, that's a no-brainer. But
he's the unicorn.
He is the unicorn, and I agree with that. So otherwise,
he's 1A. He's 1 in 1A because the kid Copeland from Michigan is a very good player.
Loveland.
And if Michigan hadn't
You
been
mean
so
Loveland?
down this year,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Loveland.
Yeah, he's pretty good too.
Yeah. That's a 1-1A situation.
Okay.
I don't think he gets past the Chargers. I think his old coach takes him and.
Well, time out. So if say Warren goes top 10 and Loveland's there at 21, Bob, would you be tempted? Do you think he's okay?
No, there's no way I would pick a tight end in the
and
first
roles
round.
reversed. What if it's Warren?
No.
You're not interested in that either. Okay.
I take
Warren.
Warren. Sure.
I wouldn't pick
I
a
do
tight
too.
end there no matter what because, look, neither one of those guys is Brock Bowers. I would take Brock Bowers in the first round, but there's very few tight ends in the NFL who, and even the really, really good ones weren't first-round picks. You know who is a high draft pick as a tight end? Kyle Pitts. How'd that work out?
Yeah, it's tough.
He's not really a tight end though. Daniel Jeremiah has Tyler Warren as his 5th best player in the draft,
yeah.
And when
and
we
Genty
talk
third,
about
by the way, too.
And when we talk about Moose, I understand. I really do. It's fun. We had Heath, and then we got Moose, and we got to go into it. It's fun. The shine's coming off of Moose, and he
A little bit.
only he can fix it, and he hasn't. But really quick, a last thing about running backs before we get too far off of it. When we talk yet again, I don't want to take anyone's joy away from wanting Genty. It's a wonderful thing, and if we do that, wonderful. I see Reggie Bush. And I just remember his college career. And I looked, I'm like, there is no way he will not be one of the most successful running backs. And misuse, trying to put him in a strange. Reggie Bush never got close to reaching what he was supposed to do. So whenever I hear people say he's supposed to be a sure thing, old guy on the porch in my head goes, Reggie Bush. And so I instantly back off. So it's my risk averse nature that I've seen it happen. So,
Right.
and he had an okay career, but the
Right.
biggest thing about Reggie Bush's career I remember is the hit he took. Biggest thing.
Yeah, right.
It's a deep tight end class too. I wouldn't mind them taking one in the 3rd or 4th or 5th
Yeah.
round. I mean, because you've got Muth, and then you got Darnell Washington, who we don't know what he's going to be, and then
Right.
that's it. So I wouldn't mind getting a little depth at tight end.
No,
You
the
got
new guy.
Donald Parham.
Right.
Oh, Parham, I forgot about him there. If you start a
And for
basketball
any-
team, they're all set. But
Yeah.
For anybody just tuning in the middle, we are only talking offense. For anyone who missed, that's why we haven't brought up defense. Some
Yeah,
of us
yeah,
may
we're gonna
want
do defensive
defensive
next one.
players in this spot, but we're
Right.
only offense today. For anyone who's confused.
Yeah, catching up to. I'm curious what you guys think about this comment from Big Poppy about taking the best available player, even if that's, offensive lineman Booker. He's going to be a Pro Bowler if JNT isn't there.
you know,
No
when I did
offensive
my
lineman.
post this week, the Steelers are in a weird spot. When they draft, the 2 best defensive linemen could be gone. All the running backs. If Booker's the best player, take him. I mean, Sayamalo, we talked about him in the last. He's going to be 32. I wouldn't, do cartwheels about it, but I wouldn't hate it either.
Yeah.
If he's, I don't know, they're in a weird spot. It's kind of a shallow draft.
I'm a no. I want them to take the best player available out of either defensive lineman, cornerback, or wide receiver, period.
But then you run into the problem of maybe reaching and getting a bad player,
I'm saying if one of them fall, that's when you got to go.
Well, yeah,
That's
me
the
too.
Route,
I don't want
that's the
them
route
to
you got to go.
Yeah.
But I'm not
I don't want to,
interested in a guard right now. I'm just not.
Yeah, but you're kind of going the other way if you're saying, well, all the running backs are gone and all the wide receivers are gone, then we got to go guard. Look, the Steelers have put a lot of draft capital in the offensive line the last couple of years.
Right.
No doubt.
And at this point, and I kind of agree with Bob Pompiani, who's made this point several times over the last week or so. At some point, you have to have your number 1 and number 2 and number 3 draft picks all produced for you, but you can't just keep throwing good after bad at that position and hope.
Right.
Because all you're doing is waste. So finally, 5 years from now, when you finally get the offensive line right, it doesn't matter because we don't have any skill position players. That being said, when we talk about defense on Thursday, there are a lot of guys who I think will absolutely be there when the Steelers pick. But if we're limiting it to offense right now, I don't see fine. Genty maybe goes in the first round. If he does, then the running backs who've gone in the first round have gone top 15. I don't see Hampton as a top 15 back. I think he's the first pick in the second round. I could see somebody maybe doing it late, but I'm totally comfortable with the wide receivers and running backs in the draft who are in the second and third round.
Somber has a homework assignment for us. He wants us to go watch some film on Ja'Cory Merritt and get back to him on the next stream. He'll be here.
All right, we will do that, Somber.
He plays for Arizona. He's a running back for Arizona.
Okay.
So
And he's probably a solid day 3 pick.
Yeah, I think so too. But I
Now,
know.
the biggest thing when we talk about the best player available is, unless it's one of those players that you have in your head, or if you've seen the Kevin Costner draft day thing that's in the little folded thing in your pocket to remind you who to take. If it's not one of them, you have to be honest when you look at it. Don't just get amazed by who's there. Look at it and say, is it worth that or what we could get for that? That's what every best player that pops up, because the Aston Genty thing, I don't know why it didn't pop in my head, but goodness, the king's ransom you could get. If you're just sitting there
Possibly.
and Aston Genty is sitting there, you're just like, who wants
Possibly.
them? And you just turn around and just have a call center of phones ready.
Yeah,
to
maybe.
take all GMs at once.
Although it
what I
makes
would
me
do to
wonder
look
if he's
at.
fallen that far, like why?
My man, Relic.
I mean, that makes me nervous. He dropped. All
The
right,
one I heard-
another one at us. He said, and I know we're not doing D lineman, but we'll answer him. Round 1, D lineman Harmon. 2,
I like
cornerback.
Harmon.
Round 3, wide receiver Higgins. Round 4, Ja'Cory Merritt. Quarterback Show. Round 7, picks wide receiver Theo Weiss. And Marks, D lineman Hutchmacher. What do you guys think?
That's a
like
very
Higgins in
grab
the
your
third.
lunch pail, go to work, and come home. That's just a solid lineup.
I hear Thomas is
no,
getting
I like it.
first round buzz, so he might not be there with the
Yeah, I
Steelers.
was
in
just
a
say, I
second.
don't know that
Depends
he
how
can
he
do
runs.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like
he's
Harmon
getting a lot of buzz.
I like Harmon and Higgins.
It's Good draft. I would not be mad at that number if that
It's a
happened.
solid mock.
Well, I can tell you this: Higgins, unless he runs 4 or 5, is not going to be there in the third. Thomas is a Joey Porter clone. And when I watch him, I see Joey Porter, which I like. I like him a lot. If he runs really fast, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
He's probably a first or second round pick.
Better than
If he-
Porter's 4.5.
Yeah, if he
Oh, yeah.
turns in, we got to kind of hope he runs that, because if he does, I think
So he
he's going
drops
to be there in the third.
But then do you really want him? I don't know.
Yes,
He's a
because
good corner.
go ahead.
I see a lot of. I think it's it's pronounced Shuck, not Show.
Yeah.
I see he's getting a lot of buzz too. He could go early, like 4, quarterback 4. That's what a lot of people I'm reading
Really?
think he could go quarterback 4.
Right.
We'll see.
Right.
It'll
He's
probably be
26. He's kind of older, and he's been injured a lot. That's the 2 knocks against him.
One thing I do want to say about Derek Harmon, Pac-10 or Pac-12 or Pac-2 or whatever the fuck they're called at this
Big
point.
10 now.
Yeah.
Oregon, right? Big
Yeah.
10 now.
Yeah, they're Big Ten now.
Steelers don't have good luck with those players. And, I would hope, since we took Juju and waited almost a decade to pick Fatanu after the Fatanu debacle, that we're going to be really careful about picking another player from out on the West Coast. Not that those guys are bad. The Steelers just cannot identify a player on the West Coast.
I don't
just
think they
can't.
look. I don't think they look. If you look,
Yeah.
I did a thing one time with their drafts. They didn't draft anybody from the Pac-10 for years and years. I don't even
No,
think
they don't even look
they
at
didn't
it.
look out there.
Right.
Yeah, the guy I love. I'm going to save it. I'm going to save my defensive guys, because there are defensive guys I really, really, really love.
Yeah, save that. Hold that thought, Bob. Relic brings up again that we're forgetting we need that wide receiver in round 1 or round 2. We cannot go back in with a bad wide receiver class. He comes back and says in another comment, especially if we do in fact trade Pickens. I think Pickens is still going to be.
Yeah,
I don't
Yeah,
think
I
they're going
agree.
to trade Pickens.
he's
Yeah,
going.
I don't think so either. But Relic, I understand people want that. You start going in with that mindset, you will reach. You
Yeah.
will absolutely reach. This is a
What I'm worried
the post. I think it was Batko or someone. It's Post Gazette said this is an average draft class that can make themselves above average with a great combine showing. But at best, I love what Bob, you put it really well. This is a really solid wide receiver 2 draft. You're getting solid NFL like start on day 1, wide receiver 2, NFL wide receiver here. But do not go making any of them into something they aren't.
Yeah. And that's how we get in the mess we're in right now. Darth said he hates the overemphasis on 40-yard speed. The mechanic they run in that sprint is not the same as in-game sprinting mechanics. I think that's a fair
That's
point.
true, but it's the best we got at the moment. So
Yeah, it is.
until
yeah,
you got
I mean-
something else.
Well,
Yeah.
well, I think the shuttle run is also important.
I was
for,
about to say. Yeah.
But that being said, with wide receivers and corners, those 2 positions specifically, I don't care if my linebacker runs, a grade 40 time. I don't hate it, but it's not what I'm looking for. But wide receivers and corners specifically, if you have got that straight line speed and run a decent shuttle time where you can start and stop, I think it's an important metric for those 2 positions.
Yeah, different
For me, it
positions,
matters
different
more
things
seeing
matter.
what they did in games. Do you know what I mean? It's just, I think that,
Right.
speed is great. You want them to be fast. I totally agree. Most of these guys are fast. You want them to be quick, but you've got to be able to handle yourselves in games. Can you get some separation? What do you look like under pressure? How do you do with those contested catches? Do you know what I mean? I think some of those things are huge. And you see teams prioritize speed, and I think they sacrifice other things. Big Poppy says you got
Ray
to
Archer.
get off
Ray
quickly.
Archer.
Yeah.
Well, Trey Archer wasn't quick; he was fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
And too small.
We got obsessed with speed for a bit. I honestly, the Shazier injury just put us in shell shock for a few years, where it was 40 speed or nothing, and it was just a weird little bit. It was like the years where the Detroit Lions couldn't help but draft a wide receiver in the first round. They just no matter who it was, just wide receiver, and Joey Harrington.
Yeah, it's not the end all be all, but you kind of noticed it this year. Look at, when Joey Porter was on AJ Brown, and all of a sudden AJ Brown was alone, and Joey Porter was 10 yards away from him. That's when the speed, when it's speed on speed, and you can press at the line. But once you get down the field a little bit, speed really matters. I mean, being 5'9" and Calvin Austin straight line speed, but being, some of these, look at Xavier Worthy, fastest ever. Boy, did he look good for a rookie.
Yeah.
Plus, his team needs speed badly. I mean, they don't have a lot on offense.
Yeah.
Right,
They
right.
really could use an infusion of speed.
So I think we can skip the center position, right? We're obviously not drafting a center anywhere in this draft, I hope, knock on wood. But what about
do we know if they can play tackle?
I was going to say, what about and guard? Do you guys see them taking anybody at tackle or guard? Obviously, not in the first round, I hope. But
I hope not.
And to Poppy's point, but are you seeing them taking somebody at one of those positions in a later round? Is it a kind of best player available kind of thing if somebody's there?
Maybe day 3. Maybe.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Day 3 guard.
We have 3 7ths, right?
Yeah,
it's something like that. Yeah,
that's really late for.
That's late though. Yeah,
someone can have one.
That's
that's how much we should prioritize it.
It depends if they think McCormick's the guy or not.
Sayamalu's getting old.
Yeah, true. You could see guard early.
They could progressive draft a guard later in the draft to be the
third,
replacement for
I agree,
Sayamalu.
but not round 7.
No, I say fourth. I can say fourth, just like they did with McCormick. They could go in the fourth and go get a guy.
If they drafted a tackle second, third round, that would set alarm bells off.
I'd lose my fucking
That would
mind
set alarm bells off that they don't believe in Broderick Jones or they don't believe in the injury for Fatanu.
Or they believe that they're going to make Fatanu a guard.
Yeah, that's true.
Or that too.
But the thing is, the Steelers,
I don't see it,
as a franchise,
I don't want to see it.
I
don't want to see it.
They'll let us all burn within our own minds about how mad we are about this.
Yeah.
They drafted 3 offensive linemen last year, right? So it'd be strange to go into that again, but
and it depends who else is there. What did
5 in the first 2?
What didn't we take to take that guard, or what didn't we take to take that tackle? Is what I'm going to look at right now. I would be furious, but if we're sitting there and it's like, well, literally nobody else was there, and everyone else that we needed would have been a reach at that point. So yeah, you take that guard or tackle. I get that.
Yeah.
But oh goodness.
I agree with the copy, but I think we got to switch over to like our defensive trenches a little bit. I think I agree with you guys. Third round, fourth round, something like that. Fifth round, maybe for a tackle, but we got to shift that focus over to the defense a little bit in the trenches.
I mean,
what do you guys think about this? Relic says he would trade Joey Porter Jr. He gets called too many times and he's sick of it. But we'll save that for the defense show. All right, you guys can think about that for Thursday then.
He's the best corner we have right now.
You trade JPJ, you got nobody.
Yeah, you know what we got.
You got me and Bob playing corner.
Well, exactly.
He's our only cornerback. You can't get rid of everybody. That's the thing is I think people forget, you get rid of all these people who want to be rid of Pickens and get rid of this guy, get rid of Broderick Jones, and then you got to replace him.
I guess if you drafted one in the first round and you traded JPJ and you signed somebody, I guess I get his point. JPJ was a little disappointing this past season.
Yeah.
I get the larger point. He wasn't exactly
Relic is sniffing glue or something because the Steelers are not moving off Joey Porter Jr. I mean, I think
we are
zero chance they're doing that.
No, he's too young. And it's too valuable.
He's going to figure it out.
Right.
And he's going to, once he figures out how to defend without using all of his hands, I genuinely think he will be maybe top 10 corner in the NFL.
Yeah, but you're asking him to do something that he's done his whole career. You ask him to not to do something that he's done since he was a kid. That was a knock on him coming out of Penn State was he was too handsy, and he's still too handsy. There may be a world where he can't do that.
Coach it out of him.
Well,
if
Pittsburgh
he can't,
I'm sorry. Where? Who?
Zach's already
served that one up. That was like a softball.
Moving on to a different location.
Right.
He said the C word, guys.
That's a good one.
Oh boy.
Man.
All right, guys. Any other positions you want to talk about on the offense? Any other players we didn't get to mention? Anything else in the combine? Dave, you were a little bit late. Anything you're really looking to see or hope the Steelers are looking to see in this combine?
It's the running backs and how they run. That's what I'm really, really interested in. I think Hampton's going to do. Travion Henderson's supposed to be really, really fast. I was disappointed that Genty's not going to run, but I want to see what these guys are going to fly.
Yeah.
That's going to be real interesting. Did you guys bring up Travion Henderson? I wouldn't mind him in a second.
You might even be able to get him early third if you trade back.
I don't think so.
That would be a great pick.
He's gonna run legit. He might be the fastest running back in the draft.
I guess all I would say is to everyone knows I try to bring a little dose of reality. We are not that player away from a damn thing. Everyone needs to take that dose. We are not. Oh, look, we got that guy. Now we're a Super Bowl contender. It doesn't matter if. That's why I want us to get possibly trade back or get the most value we can, because we're not one guy away. So just remember that when you're going
away from a playoff win. Like, I think we have the potential to make some adjustments and win a playoff game this year. And I understand that's not the ideal goal, but I mean, for fuck's sake, it has to happen.
Yeah, Vaughn Judkins is a top 100 ranked player.
Yeah, Judkins is good too.
I usually
stack good players.
Henderson and Judkins together in the rankings. Like wherever Henderson is, Judkins is right below him.
Yeah.
And that's not going to work for the song, though. That's not inspirational. Pittsburgh's going to win a playoff game. Here we go.
Well, get used to it.
Shit.
Get used to it.
He says, you know that Tomlin's kid's going to hit the draft. He's going to be a Steeler even if he sucks. I think he's next year, or is it next year?
I don't even know.
Honestly, this is something we shouldn't even be concerned about. This kid is not.
Think about that for a year or two, Shower. We're not going to talk about that yet.
I'll give you a deep sleeper name to watch for the running backs. Right now, he's probably a 6th, 7th because of the depth of the class. There's a kid out of Delaware named Yarns. If he puts up a big 40 time, I could see him sliding up into early day 3, maybe even late day 2. That kid he's pretty good. The competition wasn't necessarily great, but for a running back, he's a nice little player. He very much could turn into, and I would love to see him in a tandem with Jalen Warren, because basically you got 2 bowling balls.
5'11", 109 pounds.
Yeah, he's
back at Delaware.
All the great T-shirts that DC4L Custom Tees could make about spinning yarns and things like that.
There we go.
Jeez, you're one step ahead of it, Leanne. There you go.
All right. If you joined us tonight for the chat, we really appreciate all of your guys' input. It makes it so much more fun. Come back and join us on Thursday evening. We'll be back at 7 p.m. to talk about the defensive side of the combine, as well as anything else new Steelers related that pops up between now and then. If you're catching this after it's already filmed, please drop us a comment. Let us know what your thoughts are. You can contact all of us on social media. Our handles are on the screen, as well as the Steelers podcast, Steelers Sanctuary podcast page, and the Steelers Sanctuary page. And thank you so much. You guys have a good night.
What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to chase after them?
Oh. That's just what they'll be expecting us to do.
Probably worth the Google.